Alright guys, this is what we're tying today. This is called the Royal Coachman. This is a beautiful fly. In fact, I think it's one of the prettiest flies out there. It's got great lines to it, and then just absolutely beautiful with this peacock, and of course the red that makes it the Royal. And let's get to it. This is McFly Angler.
And it starts now.
Alright, let's start by putting the hook in the vise. Today I'm using Risen's barbless nymph 9231. Now actually I'm not sure this is the 9231 to be honest. I accidentally mixed up a whole bunch of hooks. But this would be a really good one for this. So this is the 1X short shank. And I believe this is the normal one. So I'm forgetting what they call the normal one. So this might be that. And I'll put right here exactly what this one probably is. But either way, just a nymph hook, guys, will work. And it would be better actually to get a 1X short. Although it is helpful to have something a little longer in this fly. So a standard nymph hook might work better for you. And the thread I'm using today is Vivis 6/0 in black. So we're going to start the thread right up by the hook eye, but leave a little gap. The amount doesn't really matter that much. Alright, we can break or snap off the waist, and then we're just going to make a nice even thread base all the way down. We're going to come right down to the bend of the hook, and go into it slightly and come back up to right at the start of the bend. Next we need a collar feather from a golden pheasant, and this is what you end up with. And we're just going to take about half dozen of these fibers. Want to make sure that the tips are aligned, like so, and then we'll just peel them right off. Now there's fuzzies at the end, and that'll keep them from being aligned, so I just cut those off. It makes it a little easier to deal with. With this fly, you like a pretty long tail, and in fact the tail should be as long as the hook shank, which it is right there. So we'll transfer that measurement to the other hand and just tie this in. Okay, we'll go back one wrap here. We don't want to angle down or up, so if I wrap too far into that bend, it will point it down, as you can see. So if I just find the right distance down into the bend, it should be good. Now we're going to keep this here to build a thicker base on this fly. I always look at it this way because, as you can see, it's tilted off to the side. We can adjust that a little bit. There we go. Let's lock that in with another wrap. Next we need 3 strands of peacock herl. You want 3 rather similar sizes. And the tips of peacock herl are really fragile, so let's just cut off the tips. We're going to extend that up to maybe 2 hook eye lengths back from the eye of the hook for tie-in, like so. And then we can bring our thread with touching wraps about halfway up. Now we're going to straighten these out. Grab a set of these type of hackle pliers, plunger type. And then we are going to grab the butt ends. And now we can twist, but don't over twist. So this first wrap, you almost want to just lightly twist it. Don't mess with the tail, because that is fragile. Those tips are really fragile. Alright, so it wants to jump backwards on you once you wrap it. I guess you could spin it the other direction, but then it would jump forward. If you just wrap them on, all the fibers go one direction. It doesn't look as buggy. I like to spin it. Now if you're tying one smaller, you could go with only 2 strands. Alright. So, as you can see, we came up to pretty much at the point of the hook. Okay. I'm going to bring this back and then capture that. We're going to come up. We can take off the hackle plier just to make it easier. And I'm going to come up about the same distance that you have from the start of the tail to where you tied it in, like so. Now we got this floss. This is red floss, is what makes it the Royal. We'll capture that floss. Make sure we're just tying the tip in, and then we can come back down about at the hook point measurement, as you can see there. And then we're just gonna wrap back up and try to keep this as even as possible, because that's what's gonna make the floss look good. Now, we stroke this floss to flatten it, and then we can start making touching wraps. All right, so let's capture that. Then we want to come in with some really fine point scissors and cut this off close. And these are the mitten scissors by McFly. They are awesome scissors, super fine tip on them, and they fit really nicely in your hand. They are my favorite scissor, especially when trying to do detail work. Now we're going to pull this back and wrap the thread right over it, like so, but we're going to leave the thread there. We're not going to bring it up. Pull these out, grab the tips once more with the hackle pliers, and then we'll start spinning. Now you can be a little more aggressive up here. And leaving the thread there keeps these wraps together. As you can see, they're denser because that thread is left there. You could do that on the back one too. All right, once you capture it well, you can just pop that off. They're fragile. Next we need some hackle, and I've got this 4B. You want something brown. And these center ones are a little bit darker, which is kind of what you want. The Coachman actually is a pretty dark hackle, especially for the dry. They use a really dark hackle, but this will work, is good enough. So we select 2 feathers that are the same size. Now if you had something with denser feathers, you wouldn't need to select 2, but let's align the tips, get these close together. Since they're the same size, it'll be easy to do this with. So now we take it, we stroke out the fibers to align those tips, grab them, rip them right off. So I'm tying this in the beard style rather than wrapping hackle all the way around. You could do either. I like the beard style. I think it's cleaner and nicer looking. So we're gonna capture that. Make sure we keep it straight. And you can see I've got this tied in so the tips are just slightly past the hook point there. These should not impede in hook set, but they are fine enough, but it'll give a nice little collar. Beard, I guess you would call it. All right, so again, super fine point scissors are necessary here to cut that off and not get it in the hook eye. Let's clean that up a little. All right, and now we're gonna make like a little base to this. There we go. Now for the wing. So this is the trickiest part. It's not that hard once you get the hang of it, but your first couple are going to be giving you trouble. So we got this. This is a goose wing. That's perfect for this type of application. So we're going to pull off a section. You want it fairly thick, but I mean, don't go crazy. That's about right there. And then we need a married pair, so basically one that's on the other wing, angled the other direction, and then we can put them together and align the tips, and then we will end up with this. Now, you can tie it in with the curve down, but that does not look as nice. In fact, if you mess up and do that, by the way, that's what you end up getting. While that looks nice, it's not as nice as if you turn this the other direction. So we've got both the tips aligned. You want this turned up, and that's going to give a really nice look. You want the tip out to right about that first dot of this golden pheasant, just slightly past where you tie in the tail, and that'll be a good wing. You grab it with your other finger. We're going to press this down so it's touching the hook shank. I'm going to come in with a pinch wrap and then keep pinching and just pinch that down and do a really nice tight wrap. Do another one and then another. And that's how you do that. They are a little difficult when you haven't done them before, but once you get the hang of it, they're really not that hard. So there we go. That looks really nice. It's not perfect. Could have done better. I don't really like this. It's not flat, but that still looks pretty good, and I'm happy with that. So let's look at it. Is it directly on top? We've got a little angle to it, so we can kind of adjust a little bit. There we go. So that's now, it's a little too much that way. That's perfect. Look at that. So that's directly right on top. I'm going to pull this up, come in with our super fine point scissors, cut that off. Now let's clean that head up. And just take your time. You can come down to the hook eye and then work your way back up. You want to just make a really nice even head on this. The head looks pretty nice. So I'm going to bring the thread back up and then we can whip finish. And always whip finish from the back to the front, or whip finish from rear to forward towards the eye. Cut that off close, and then we need to cement the head, and that's going to give a nice glossy look to the head. And you could use varnish, but I love this Solares Ultra Thin. It has a nice little handy paintbrush with it, and this stuff cures really hard. It's really good for cementing the head and keeping it nice and secure. I personally like it. It's not the traditional stuff to use, but I like it better than the traditional. There we go. I just painted that on. We're going to rotate it around and cure it with our UV light. So basically this just cures hard with UV light, and that's rock hard. Now, that's not as shiny as I want it, so I'm going to just do a second coat. Do the same thing, keep it rotated. And then on this last coat, I like to hold this UV light further away and then come closer as I rotate. And that's just going to make a nice even cure. And there we go. There's the finished Royal Coachman wet fly. A beautiful fly, guys. And it does take some materials that are a little difficult to find, like this golden pheasant. However, I did find a place on Amazon that sells it, and it's enough feathers to tie probably hundreds of these. It's the whole head, and it's like $14. So I will link that below. Granted, that's of making this video. It could change in time. Those prices fluctuate a lot, but this is a traditional style wet fly. Great for swinging, for trout, but above all, they're just beautiful. They're really, really pretty flies. If you guys remember, a couple weeks ago, I tied something called a Hardy's Favorite, and that was from a request from one of you guys. Thank you for that request. Since then, I was like, I really like these traditional wet flies. They're really fun to tie. They're beautiful once you're done. They're really rewarding. So this was my next try, and I had to get, it took a little while because I had to get some better wing material, something that's all white. And in fact, what's nice is on Amazon, I found actually all the colors for these traditional wet flies for these wings. So these are all the goose feathers that I believe it's goose, and it comes in so many different colors, and it was like $20 again at the time of making this video. So definitely check that out. I will link to all these materials in the description section. But just those two materials, once you have those two, most of you have all the rest. I mean, the rest of it is pretty simple to find. Also, check out next week's video. This is what I tie. This is the dry fly version of this fly. It's a Royal Coachman dry fly. Both are very beautiful flies, so definitely check that out next week. So if you haven't already, check out my sponsor, Fly. They are the ones that made the hooks today. They are awesome hooks for a really good price. You get 25 in a pack. I mean, they're super inexpensive for a really good hook. I mean, these are super sharp, just absolutely super sharp. And then they're strong too. I mean, these got some strength to them. They're not flimsy. They're made with a really good metal. They also sell rods and reels and tools for fly tying and fishing. A large selection of really good priced fishing gear that is really good quality. So best off, they're offering all my subscribers a discount. So first off, become my subscriber if you're not already, and then go to www.risenfly.com and type in McFly at checkout for 15% off of your first order with them. Well, if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit that bell notification for future video updates. Also, if you could hit the like button, it would really help me and the channel out. I will see you on the next video. Now you go catch some fish.